This is George Iraqi. He's president of the 101 Scout Association that Mort Wood mentioned. That's his wife Millie in the Princess sidecar.
Okay, this is a 1929 Indian 101 Scout. And what makes it a 29 and not a 28 is that it has straight side tires, drop center tires. The 28 had clincher. It also has Timken bearing wheels. The 28 had ball bearings. It also has a compression release on the cam case. The 28 had a compression release running through the gasoline tank right about here. The speed of cars back then was pretty much 35 on the best roads you could find, and a lot less than that on most roads. So in most cases, you could get places quicker on a motorcycle. There were lots and lots of unimproved roads, and cars, you more or less had to go in the ruts, and when the ruts got deep enough, you were scraping the transmission and the rear end. And with motorcycles, you could hop from the center to the side and so forth. In fact, some of the early sidecars were adjustable, so you could stay out of the wagon ruts. You could actually change the distance of the wheel from the motorcycle. Anyhow, the uses the sidecars were put to were a lot. Some people, it was the only transportation a family had. The husband and the wife would take their vacations with it. Later on, when the kids were, one kid was small, they'd take that one in her lap. But then when the second one came along, it was a car. So another fellow took the tub off and put a canoe on it, on the side. And when he went to the lake, he just take the canoe off and do his paddling around and then put the canoe back, and that was a place for the passenger. Yeah, quite inventive.
Some say that actually the antique motorcyclist has a psychological problem. He hopes the bike will break down so he gets to fix it. I don't buy that, but this is what they say. Indian and Harley-Davidson, because they didn't like each other very much, reversed their controls. The throttle on an Indian is on one side, on the Harley it's on the other side. And the spark is the same way, so that when I went to start this thing, I was working the spark control instead of the throttle, and that's why it didn't start. Okay? Human error, it's called. I was for 42 years a practicing veterinarian, and one of the advantages of rural work is that you get into barns and buildings and so forth where all sorts of neat artifacts are hidden. I have found motorcycles. I've talked to farmers who knew where motorcycles were. I was in a wonderful occupation for locating this stuff. If there's any motorcycles left in my practice area, I'd be surprised. But every once in a while, one of my friends in the hobby fools me and buys something out from under my nose. But by and large, I have the area pretty well scouted. Indian scouted, if you please.
Doc gave us a detailed history of the four-cylinder motorcycle. The short version is as follows. The first four was the FN built in Belgium in 1904. In 1912, the Henderson brothers created their own four-cylinder motorcycle in Detroit. They moved to Philadelphia and built the famous Ace in 1919. They had often experienced financial difficulties and in 1924 finally went bankrupt.
An Indian then, I believe in 1927, bought the remains of the Ace Motor Company. And they moved all the materials to Springfield, Massachusetts, and started manufacturing the Ace there. They made a few hundred of them, I believe, as aces painted red, and they call it the Indian Ace. Then they called it the Collegiate 4. Now that same motorcycle, pretty much the same, outward appearing anyway, was made up through 1931. And in 32, they upgraded it considerably. And 36 and 37, they completely redesigned the engine. Completely redesigned that. Before when you looked at an Indian 4 engine, it looked so much like an Ace engine that only an expert would know the difference. In 36, they completely redesigned the engine, putting the exhaust manifold on the top of the engine and the intake manifold on the bottom of the engine, and they called it the upside-down 4. It did not sell well. In 37, they modified and put 2 carburetors on, hoping to increase sales through increased performance. That didn't work so good. But in 38, they designed what we consider the most beautiful motorcycle ever built, the Indian 4. It was a 38. Did I say 39? 38. The Indian 4, designed in those years, was a massive engine. It was a high-performance engine. It was very well engineered. They'd gone about as far as they could go with that basic design. In 1940, I believe, they put the valence fender on. And then 41 and 42 are the Indian 4s as everybody thinks of them, with the beautiful faired fenders, streamlined tank, and the massive engine occupying the entire inside section of the frame. An absolutely beautiful piece of machinery. And this is the Indian 4 that all Indian connoisseurs want in their collection. The last part of the American 4-cylinder effort came, it started with 2 Belgians. They were brothers, came to this country, I believe in the late 30s. They opened a machine shop in Connecticut and went to build 3 motorcycles, a single, a twin, and a 4, all using the same cylinders. The idea was production saving. They would have that much less casting and machining and so forth by using the same cylinders. The single and the twin went into production as the Arrow and the Scout. Indian had acquired all that machinery and all the patents and drawings and whatnot. And the Arrow and the Scout went into production. They decided not to build the 4. It would have been too expensive to build. 4-cylinder motorcycles were very expensive to build back then. And they did not think it would have sold well enough to support that effort. So the 4-cylinder program was scrapped. They also built one in the factory completely to their own specifications, and that prototype's still around too. But this is the light 4-cylinder as Indian had projected for the post-war market. Well, that was something I wanted to say. You must remember, while all this 4-cylinder business was going on, Indian was still very much in business, making their Chiefs and Scouts. And the Sport Scout of the 30s, the 101 Scout before that, were both wonderful motorcycles. The Indian Chief is a great motorcycle. It's big, it's heavy, and it's fast, powerful, durable. But the 4 had kind of a magic to it that a great many American buyers loved. It was the top of the line, you might say. I think the Chiefs would run further and faster and last longer than the 4, but there's nothing quite like the mystique of a 4-cylinder Indian.